Wonderful. It is so good to see you all today. And again, I want to thank the men for taking us back. And sitting over there and looking at Grady through the screen, it was surreal. Just an awesome moment. For those of you who may be visiting us for the first time, or you're here for the first time in a while and you're seeing this set, you wonder what's going on here. Well, actually, this is a backdrop of a new sermon series entitled The Road Home. And our focus comes from Jeremiah 6:16, where he's encouraging the Israelites to go back to the ancient past. They're standing in the crossroads, and they don't want to go. They don't want to listen. And they go off on their own way. Well, the road home made me think of my home, our home in Tennessee. It's a place called Haywood County. And my grandmother lived way, way back off the road. And some might say it was a shack, but it was from that place that a lot of my core values, Christian core values, were shaped. And I'm praying as we're looking at this that we would consider our core values, our Christian core values, and find the urgency to impart these things to our children. Especially to our children. Amen. When they're moldable and they're impressionable. And we discovered that there are a lot of things that are bombarding us in this particular time. I can say that during the innocence of that period, that it was the house, the church house, and the schoolhouse that formed the core values of my parents and my generation. Now you got so many other things that are knocking at our doorstep, or that are in your children's hands, and molding their lives. And if there ever was a time that we as Christians need to rise up and take responsibility in this particular area, it is now. I want to thank you all for your input and encouragement in this message. Last Sunday, I had Stephanie on the porch in this service, and she talked about some of the things that are hidden to us that a lot of single moms have to deal with. And wouldn't you know it, that in the Inquirer last Sunday featured a young lady who was raising four children on her own and was pregnant and recently gave birth to a child. But the Inquirer basically did the full paid paper of this young lady. And I want to encourage you to look at it. It's very, very, very powerful. And our message that day was, you cannot tell someone's story by looking at the surface. You have to go underneath. And once you go underneath, you understand even more. So please go online and look at that. Today, during breakfast, we were just kind of chit-chatting over the message today and trying to understand some things that are going on in the world. And I directed some questions to Brian, our saxophonist. He blew our minds with some things, and I was thinking, man, do I get him out on the porch? That's what I'm thinking. You know, I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything to him. Should I get him out on the porch? Come on, son.
What's up, Papa?
Love you too.
As far as it goes.
Renee Dorman, stand up. It's funny. First week I'm preaching this, she said she wanted to holler out, "Pastor, shut the door. I want to let the flies in." I said, "What you know about that?" She said she grew up in a place like this. Many of you have. Yeah. So I'm sitting there at the table and thinking to myself, should I have Brian to join me on the porch? And Pastor Marsha walks in and says, "So who's going to be with you on the porch?" And all eyes went to Brian. First of all, let's give him a hand for his musicianship. He's just awesome. Come on, y'all can do better than that. This boy is amazing. We got to talking about a hard subject, race relations. I mean, a real deep subject. And I was trying to understand why some folks feel it okay to treat others in a certain kind of way. And Brian started giving me some background of the things that he heard when he was a child, and just help us with that.
Being around.
Turn him up a little bit.
I can talk louder.
Oh, you do.
Being around my mom and dad, they, and my grandparents, I can remember comments. You want me to just be as open as I was back there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you're with family.
All right. I remember them used to saying lots of things, like, "There goes the neighborhood," and you know, just stuff that is. And the crazy part is, my grandpa was a pastor, and I don't even think I told you that. And
No, you didn't tell me that, but you know, it don't matter.
It don't matter. But I just, growing up, there was a definite, whether it was never even really said, it was a separation. You were to separate yourself from people that were different looking, and when we go in different looking, it's skin color. And you want me to keep going?
Well, then I asked you.
What broke it?
Yeah, I asked you what broke it for you.
And so I've always been a different kid. I did not, my mom and dad would tell you I was the most difficult. To this day, I haven't talked to them in about 4 years. Mostly because it's all pain and heartache that I have to go through. But anyway, I was my own person. I made my own choices. Some not always smart, and I paid consequences for that, you know. But it was in 5th grade for me when I realized that I was going to take a stand on this issue. I had a girlfriend. Her name was Shanika, and
Not Julie, not Nancy, not Susan. Man, you went with.
Why'd you gotta say Susan for? Come on, Pastor.
I'm sorry. Shanika.
Oh boy. So anyway, we were. It was our 5th grade field trip, and it was an overnight.
It was what?
It was an overnight trip. It was like a field trip. We were supposed to go
And
overnight.
Shanika's there, and you there.
Well, it was the whole 5th grade class.
Go ahead, man. I'm not gonna interrupt no more. Go ahead.
And we went and it was the Underground Railroad, 5th grade trip, and it was basically like you were experiencing what it would have been like. And my mom went as a chaperone. And to her surprise, I was holding Shanika's hand, and she kissed me on the cheek. 5th graders, come on now. And it was immediately at that point my mom pulled me aside and said, "No, this ain't happening. She's black. What's wrong with you?" And I stood up to her and told her, "You crazy." And I went home. She took me home. I didn't get to complete the whole process. But at that point in time, that's when 5th grade was a big deal for me. I had 2 other friends, Tamika, and I think the other guy's name was Bartholomew, and they were both black. And I never saw anything different. We were all the same. And I think that's the problem with today, is that you're raised to think certain things. And you really got to push to the other side.
Wow.
And see that we're literally all the same. And it's what makes us great.
So you pushed through the other side, even though at home.
But it cost me. It cost me. I'm the middle child. My mom and dad would tell you I have middle child syndrome, which I don't believe that exists, because I've got 2 middle kids, and I try to treat them the same exact way, and I feel like the issues I had, I've never had with them. If anything, my oldest has been the most difficult. If we're talking about raising kids, but yeah.
You know what? I'm moved that you would be willing to pay that kind of cost. And more than ever, I understand Jonathan and David's relationship. That Jonathan was willing to pay a tremendous cost for his friend. And our relationship goes beyond you playing the saxophone, me on the keyboard, or even me, pastor, member, or you member. We are brothers. And this is your family.
Absolutely.
And I'll tell you this, what I know of my family, is the real deal.
Yeah.
And we're willing to pay the cost, whatever it takes, to keep building this type of relationship with you. And we're glad that you're here helping us to be better. You want to say something else?
I was raised in church, and I've told pastors a couple times, but I never really felt genuine love from a church family until I came here. Where's Big Papa at? Yeah. He was one of the first ones I met when I came in, and the way you just loved me and took me in, it was like, I don't talk about this a lot. It's difficult for me to talk about the relationship I have with my parents. There are foster parents out there that will treat you better than your own, and I want to say thank you to Grady, because you were that person. It was about 3 years ago that kind of showed me just love, and that's why I call you Big Papa. I don't think I have anything else to say. This is pretty intimidating. I don't know how you do this every Sunday.
I don't either. To be truthful with you. Man. What I learned, and I shared this with you back there, from my grandparents, is that everybody was welcome. So on the porch, you would see some of everybody. Around the table, you see some of everybody. And this reminds me of that. And beyond the music, I want us to help people to experience what we've experienced in God. And you keep doing what you're doing. Amen. Last word of the Bible. Amen. That was the sermon. Just press your way to the altar. I'm serious. That was the message. Yeah, if you can, everybody, let's just be a family and make it here.